Hello, hello, all, and welcome to the L Show, where the L in the L Show stands for leaning in, which means that we will not shy away from any subject, no matter how taboo or uncomfortable, like menopause, sex and libido, menopause, dry vagina, hot flashes, mental health and depression, which makes you not want to have sex, how we look and how we feel. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, and I'm the owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary located here in Cornelius. We are a compounding pharmacy with focus on functional medicine and a much more natural approach to your health. And for those who are not familiar with what compounding is where your pharmacist makes medications that are formulated in a specific dose and or in a specific dosage form that is unique to you. And not all compounds or compounding facilities are alike. And quality shows in every aspect of what we do. You can find out more about us by checking us out at Instagram and Facebook at Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary or on our website at roserxboutique.com. And the information that is presented on this show does not take the place of advice from your healthcare provider and may not be suitable for all audiences. Happy Friday to all of my viewers and listeners. I hope that everyone had a fabulous holiday, and this week has flown by, being that the week actually started on Tuesday. I feel like my body is Thursday. Bill, do you feel like that? Like it's already Friday, and I feel like my body's like Thursday. Right, totally thrown off. Well, I went down to South Carolina for the holiday and had a great time with my family. But what I was surprised about is that my family doesn't know what compounders do. I got a question. I'm like, what? How can you be my family and you don't know what it is that I do? So if my family doesn't understand what compounders do, I am certain that I need to spend a little more time explaining that on the show to our listeners and also getting to where compounders help others and how we can help you. So first, let's talk about what is compounding and why is it necessary. Compounding is really the creation of a pharmaceutical preparation, creation of a drug by a licensed pharmacist to meet the needs that are unique to an individual patient. And that could be a human patient, that could be an animal patient, that could even be sharks. It could be, you name it, anyone who needs something specific, anything that needs something specific. So, and we do it when a commercial available drug does not meet the needs of that particular patient. So you have a patient that may not be able to tolerate the dye. The patient may not be able to tolerate the gluten, the cornstarch that may be in some excipients. So we are able to remove those and give you exactly what it is that you need so that there is no allergic reaction. Also, there could be a drug that is currently in shortage or it has been discontinued. And a good example of a drug in shortage is, say, the Ozempic. And when I say a drug in shortage, I mean a drug that is listed on the FDA drug shortage list. Okay. So that is really, in a nutshell, what it is, what compounding actually is. Now, there are different definitions of compounding. When you ask a compounder, they're not going to get into the weeds because, we talk about drug delivery devices, things like that. We can change those as well, but that gets way into the weeds. But overall, what I just explained is what compounding is. Now, here are a few examples of how a compounding pharmacist could customize medications based upon a doctor's prescription and meet a patient's needs. So we can customize the strength or dosage. So if, say, for instance, someone needs lisinopril 15 milligrams, 15 milligrams is not available in the marketplace. Okay, we can do a capsule or tablet at 15 milligrams. Okay, if something needs to be flavored to make it much more palatable, we find that in children. We find that also in animals as well, whether or not it be cats, dogs. They like something that's sweet, so we can flavor it to mask the taste of the drug, which could be super bitter. We could also, again, as I mentioned, we could reformulate the drug to exclude any unwanted, non essential ingredients. We have people who are seriously allergic to lactose or seriously allergic to gluten. And it's a shame that without us, they would have no other options. So, again, that is a way that we can help. Also, changing the form of the medication. So, a patient who may have difficulty swallowing, they need the medication, but how are we going to get it? They may experience upset stomach when they're taking oral medication, so we can change it to a cream. We can change it to something that doesn't go through the GI tract. So a cream, a troche, something of those natures we can do. So again, it's just we are doing it customized based upon that patient's needs. We can also put certain drugs in, like a transdermal gels. We could do it in suppositories. We could do it. I don't know if anyone has heard of the rectal rockets. We do those a lot. We we do dissolvables. You name it. Again, we really are the MacGyvers of medicine. So I have said that before because I kind of dumbed it down, but really that is truly how we operate. Now, one thing though is that you must understand is that compounding does not include making copies of commercially available drugs, as I mentioned earlier. So we cannot make a copy of a drug that is already sitting on the shelf unless it is in shortage. I just want to put that out there. Unless it is in shortage. If the drug is not in shortage, we cannot make an exact copy because that would then be illegal. It needs to be changed by at least 10% in order for it to be considered not an exact copy. Now, as we go through multiple shows, I just want to start my segments off over the next few shows, especially going through what compounding is, how it can help you, how it's different from regular manufacturing, what you see on the shelves. And also, I want to culminate that into a full show on different formulations that we have used that has found to be beneficial for folks, and the stories from some of those clients as well. So again, as I'm a compounding pharmacist, it's my duty to let you know what it is that we do and give you all of the information so that you guys can be experts on what compounding is, and I won't get those stares anymore, especially from my family. I could not believe that. I'm like, how in the world do you guys not know what it is that I do? Absolutely amazing. So, if you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. We will see you on the other side of the break. Hello, all, and welcome back to the Elle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you. Quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And question, if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of the issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supportive supplements that we offer, and very few companies can offer you that. Mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSSE News, and we are going to give you 10% off your purchase. Now, we are back in the studio with a previous guest, Dr. Chasity Adams, a licensed psychologist, health service provider, life coach, speaker, and author. She received her doctorate in clinical psychology from Roosevelt University in Chicago, Illinois, and she is here today. She's back with us today to help us round out this month with a self-help tool, because remember, this month is National Mental Health Awareness Month. So this is the last day, and we're going to round it out with that. She's going to give us some tools to work with. Welcome back, Dr. Adams, and thank you so much for being back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Bill. Love it. So, Dr. Adams, I think that, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, I think that this is so important because it really comes for us during a time when either we are in perimenopause, menopause, and the mental stress can be so overwhelming because you really don't know what's going on. You're thinking, oh my gosh, am I crazy? I mean, I know I have clients outside of myself, right? From personal experience, but I have clients who come in at the beginning of this journey with the expectation that it is never going to get any better and that they are just doomed. Such a sad, sad, sad outlook, but that is what it can do to us. And they tell themselves that this is just the way that it's going to be. And many whom oftentimes have been invalidated by people close to them, or even, unfortunately, even some practitioners, they may not know that they're doing it, but that is really the way that we walk away feeling. So I'm glad that you are here because you're going to help us really dissect the important concept of self-talk. That may sound simple, but it's not, right?
Correct. So we're going to delve right in.
Yes, yes, yes. So I want you to first define self-talk and why it's important.
Absolutely. Self-talk is very important. It is our internal dialogue. Eckhart Tolle, in The Untethered Soul, one of my favorite books, he calls it the inner voice, your inner roommate. It's this incessant chatter that goes on all day, most of the time without you even noticing it. This self-talk often affects your mindset and the way you see the world. This inner voice, inner roommate, internal dialogue is with us all the time. And often we're not realizing that it is guiding our behavior. It is the essence of who we are and how we operate in this world. There are different types of self-talk. I'm going to just mention a few. I'm going to talk to you about the difference between intentional and spontaneous self-talk versus automatic self-talk. So automatic self-talk, it just happens. We're unaware. It's this internal dialogue that's going on all day. And we, as I mentioned, most often are unaware of it. Our very intentional self-talk is what we are actively thinking, what we are giving energy to, which we are creating. But more so than not, we're not creating these thoughts. Our thoughts are often a combination of unconscious and conscious thoughts. Sigmund Freud was the first one to tell us that our unconscious thoughts often guide our behaviors in ways that we're unaware of. That's where that Freudian slip comes from. It's the speaking of something that we wouldn't ever share with anyone, but it was in our
accidentally
unconscious.
Comes out. Got it.
And it was in our unconscious. It was there. Also, there's a difference between, I don't like to use the words negative and positive, but those words are very common. And I stay away from them because our thoughts are neither negative or positive. They're more constructive or unconstructive, healthy, unhealthy, ineffective, effective. But for simplicity, I will say positive and negative. Your negative thoughts are those automatic thoughts that you're unaware of and they come to you. As you mentioned earlier with your patients, this will never end. I will never see the light at the end of the tunnel. This sucks. This horrible. Those are the negative thoughts that automatically come to us. And the more positive thoughts are the thoughts where we say, we know this will get better. I can trust the process. I'm in it to win. Those that are positive thoughts. And those are the differences. Your positive, negative, intentional, very spontaneous, and automatic. And lastly, I just want to say, your thoughts can be destructive or beneficial.
Mm. So I guess this can lead into to my next question for you. How can Wow, I didn't think about all the different types of the
There
self-talk.
is a second part I didn't get to, though.
Okay, well, please share.
I wasn't the importance of self-talk. Self-talk is important because if you're not aware of your thoughts, that can lead to clinical disorders such as clinical depression when you're constantly focusing on the past and negativity and you're worried all the time. That can lead to clinical depression as well as clinical anxiety, the constant worry about the future, the constant dread. Those types of thinking and those types of self-talk can lead to clinical mental health disorders. So I wanted to make sure I said that. And positive thoughts, constructive thoughts can lead to overall positive life satisfaction.
So you kind of already answered what I was going to ask you next, which is how can this affect therapy when you have a client? How it affects therapy?
Absolutely. It can make or break therapy. If a client comes into therapy with these negative beliefs, negative thoughts that this will never work, all the other therapies have failed, what's the use? The self-fulfilling prophecy will come into play. If you think it, it will happen. If you believe it, that's what it will be. So if they think that therapy is not going to work, in many cases, they're not given their all to it to work. We often do what is in our brain unaware. We're unbeknownst to us. We're doing what's already in our brains. So if they think that therapy is not going to work, unfortunately, it might not work. And if it does, it definitely wasn't gracefully. We want it to work gracefully. So to have that optimism, to think positive and realistic, I have to give a caveat about the positive thoughts. When I'm talking about positive thoughts, I'm not talking about fluff. I'm not talking about saying, this is the best treatment ever. I know there are going to be no bumps and bruises, no obstacles. This is going to be amazing.
The cupcakes and rainbows.
No, thank you.
Okay.
No, thank you. I do not advocate that. That is fluff. I advocate realistic thoughts, which are, even if it doesn't work out this time, I'm willing to keep trying. This is important to me. Those are the types of positive thoughts that I'm talking about. I'm talking about reframing to make it make sense. Realistic, reality focused, I can do this.
That's interesting because I've always thought about, we talk about positive and negative. I've thought about positive self-talk as, yes, when you're upset, nope, I'm not upset. I'm just fine. Everything's going to be fine. Nope, I'm good. I'm not upset about what's going on. It's just, and that's not realistic. It's like, but that's what we always associate with positive self-talk.
That's actually invalidating, and your brain is too smart for that. Your brain knows when you're lying, and that's a lie. If you're upset and you're saying, I'm not upset, that's not the truth. And your brain knows that. And your brain is not going to allow you to truly embody what you're trying to embody. So if you are upset, I acknowledge I'm upset. And the positive thought is going to be, and all will be well. I can be upset and all will be well. They can coexist. They're not mutually exclusive. I am upset. I'm not going to invalidate myself. Well, you could, but I don't advocate that. I don't want you to invalidate yourself. You are entitled to feel what you feel. When we invalidate ourselves, we make it worse. Then I shouldn't be feeling this way. I feel bad for feeling this way versus this is how I feel. This is what it is. I'm not going to allow this feeling or this moment to dictate how I behave in the world.
That is very interesting because I'm thinking about a situation with my child, with my daughter. And, she'll be upset with something. And I realize that having this conversation, maybe I'm invalid, saying, don't be upset about this. Be happy. And that's just not the way to go. So we'll continue this discussion, of course, when we get back from break. But I think it's just interesting for us to have kind of tweezed that out a little bit because I think of, oh, everything's fine. That's actually not the case. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut, and the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. We'll see you on the other side of the break with Dr. Chasity Adams. Hello, hello, all, and welcome back to the Elle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And question, if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. If you can improve your gut, many of these symptoms that you think you can do nothing about can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supportive supplements that we offer, and very few companies can say that. Just mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSSC News, and we're going to give you 10% off your purchase. We are back in the studio with Dr. Adams, and where we left off, we were talking about the different types of self-talk, and we ended on really a realization for myself that I'm invalidating my child. But this is a good thing to just know, for us to be aware of. You just don't realize it. It's self-talk. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Not quite as simple as
It's
it
not as
sounds.
quite as simple as it sounds. So do you find that people, when you are with your clients, do you find that people are actually aware of their self-talk?
No, most people are not aware
Even the intentional ones, that they are aware that,
to some degree.
okay.
And we're so busy, and most of us are, as I mentioned earlier, operating on autopilot. We're just not taking the time to stop. Being mindful helps you with that, but how many of us in this busy world are mindful? We are go, 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 get it, get it, get it, grind, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And we don't take the time to pause and slow down to listen to our internal mental landscape. And I think that is very important. And that's why I'm actually passionate about this topic. And that's why I was excited to talk about self-talk, because it is a tool that is within our control. We don't have full control of our thoughts. I like to emphasize we do not have full control of our thoughts. But when we're intentional, we can help co-create our mental landscape, because the more optimistic thoughts that we have, the more fulfilling we will be.
So when you say co-create, tell me, so you're saying alongside the thoughts that we can't control? Is that what you?
Correct. So earlier I mentioned different types of thoughts. I said there were the automatic thoughts, and I called them automatic or spontaneous, which means they just happen on their own, or the intentional thoughts. Those are the seeds that you're intentionally planting. And so this is going to bring us to a question that you may have, but I am going to share. Where do thoughts come from? This seems like a window for that.
Mm-hmm.
So our thoughts come from early programming. They come from our five senses, specifically what we watch, what we listen to. So I often encourage people to be mindful of what you're allowing yourself to watch, because you are being programmed and you're being marketed to, and you don't realize it. I know I've seen myself watching a commercial about, say, Red Lobster. That is not a place where I eat. I have not eaten there in forever. But if
Mm-hmm.
I am watching a commercial and they just keep saying it, advertising, I'm not thinking about it. I found myself later on saying, "Hey, hubby, you want to go to Red Lobster?" He's like, "Why would you say that?" I don't know. But as I reflect, I now know I was being marketed to and programmed. And that's fairly innocent. I have one a little less innocent.
Okay.
I found my guilty pleasure being the Real Housewives. Hmm.
Oh my gosh,
Hmm.
whose guilty pleasure
Hmm.
is that not? I
Hmm.
mean, you can't look away.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of my guilty pleasures, and I found myself watching it frequently. So much so that I was questioning how I looked. I was
Mm.
questioning the length of my hair, the amount of makeup I wore. And historically, I was fine with all of those things. But most of the women on the Real Housewives, they have
Oh
extensions and
yeah,
their
and their face is
are
always done, and they
always
wake up perfect, and they
absolutely,
always are dressed. Not.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself questioning myself. I am over 40. And if I can get wrapped up in that, can you imagine how is it for our teenagers?
Yep.
Can you imagine how it is for our teenagers? And I am beyond a teenager. But I shared it to say that we as adults are not immune from being marketed to, and we are just as impressionable to some degree as our youngsters. Same thing with social media. I often caution against that, but that is where some of our thoughts come from. We're aimlessly scrolling. We don't realize we are being
Mhm.
programmed. It is going into our unconscious, then out of the blue, certain thoughts may pop up, and we wonder from where did that thought come? hmm Early programming, some genetics, what we see, what we hear. Those are some of the major places where our thoughts come from, and same with the negative thoughts. Our brains actually have evolved to think negatively. And I'm
Mm.
sharing this because so many people think something is wrong with themselves. What's wrong with me? Why am I thinking this? I clearly am the only person in the world thinking this way. First of all, you're not. It is very normal. Negative thoughts are not dysfunctional. Our brains have evolved to think negatively. If you think about it, hundred of years ago, when man walked the earth, say we saw a woolly mammoth all the way out there, do we run up to that cute cuddly thing and say, "Oh, you're so cute"? And nah,
No, we
nah,
don't.
nah.
We don't.
We flight, fight, freeze. We're probably fighting or we're running. That is the brain that has evolved today. Unfortunately, that same brain is on high alert when it doesn't need to be. And if you've had any trauma in your background, trauma changes you and it changes your thoughts, it changes your mental landscape. You're definitely going to have those high alert thoughts more frequently than someone else. I hope that makes sense because I want to normalize the negative thoughts. I do not want you to try to get rid of them, suppress, or repress. I want you to notice them and be intentional about ways to create new thoughts. And I want to share with you ways to just deal and manage them versus try to do away with them.
So, when we say negative, we're talking about unproductive.
Correct.
Unproductive.
Correct.
So I get the fight or flight. I get the fight or flight, but I am still trying to figure out how the fight or flight, and I guess maybe from negative. Okay, unproductive. So if we use the term negative, I'm thinking bad. If we use the term unproductive, then
It's not helping you live.
it's not helping me, so
Correct.
I don't need to fight
Correct.
or flight.
Correct.
So then we're more programmed to just behave that way just by evolution.
Correct.
Hmm.
Correct. Our brains have evolved to think a certain way. It has protected us throughout the years. And the judging, analyzing, criticizing brain works well in the outside world. If you're in corporate America or you own your business, when it comes to tangible physical things, that brain works wonders. It doesn't do well when you're turning it inward, internalizing. When you're criticizing, judging, and analyzing your internal world, it doesn't work. When you're doing that in interpersonal relationships, it doesn't work. When we increase our awareness of it, we can learn to turn it on and off. When we're on autopilot, we can't do that.
Okay, so we're going to talk through some ways that we can do this on the next segment. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut, and the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. We are going to continue with Dr. Adams on the other side of the break. See you soon. Hello, hello. We are back with the L Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And question, if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut, and the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles, and we can tailor it specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supplements that we offer. And very few companies can say that. Just mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the L Show or WSSC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. We left off with Dr. Adams, and we were getting into just some tools that she is going to talk us through in this last segment. So, Dr. Adams, what are some healthy ways to cultivate a healthy and productive self-talk that our listeners can really utilize?
Yes, I really want to leave you with something you can take with you today. The first thing is going to always be to increase your awareness. And how do you increase your awareness? Journaling helps. I know, Dr. Eastman, you've talked about journaling. I have a workbook. Whenever you write down your thoughts, you're able to see them on paper. So that is going to increase your awareness of it. I'm going to list a few skills, and if time permits, I'm going to go through each one.
Okay.
So we're going to reframe our thoughts. We're going to think in the affirmative. We're going to have an attitude of gratitude. We're going to notice absolute statements such as should, always, never. And we're going to adopt positive affirmations and coping statements. So let's look at reframing our thoughts. Say the automatic thought comes to your mind. I'll disappoint everyone if I change my mind. I can't disappoint everyone. That is an automatic thought. You can reframe that thought. I'm entitled to change my mind. And you can do it just that quickly with practice. It is to immediately flip that unhealthy, unproductive thought to a thought that is more healthy and productive. And once you begin to practice, everything takes practice. That's the challenge. The biggest challenge is to practice. And when you notice your thought, and in that moment you immediately change it, it will become a habit. I tell my clients, it seems easy to me, but it's not. I've just practiced so often that it does come a lot more natural to me than the next person. I still have those spontaneous and automatic thoughts that can be unproductive, but because I've practiced increasing my awareness of them, I can choose how to act. I can choose where I give my energy, attention, and focus, and I can choose the appropriate constructive behavior. So thinking affirmative, this is one I like a lot because it kind of falls under the umbrella of the law of attraction. So your brain will not hear don't. So if you have a conversation that you need to have soon and it's an interpersonal conversation and you literally don't want to argue, but if you're thinking I don't want to argue, I don't want to fight, the only thing your brain is going to hear is I want to argue and I want to fight. Your brain does not hear the don't. So to think in the affirmative is to think what you do desire. I want constructive conversation. I want peace. I want cooperation. I want us to be on a similar page, or I want to be in alignment. Put out there what you want versus what you do not want. Think in the affirmative. Also, have an attitude of gratitude. Journaling helps with this. So often we get caught up in this world of woe is me. One thing happens and it takes over our whole life. And when I do this, I say whole life. Many people struggle with the concept of, I apologize, it's escaping me right now, but it's a concept that it sounds minimizing and it sounds invalidating, which is, it's not that, it could be worse. It could always be worse.
Mhm.
That is the concept.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of people do not like the concept of it could always be worse because they feel like you're invalidating their experience. I talk to clients about that concept. I actually like it. I am not trying to invalidate your experience. You're entitled to feel how you feel. I stand on that, as the young people say. But I am going to minimize it because if this is the full spectrum of your life, this little thing happened, but you're magnifying it. It feels like this.
Yeah,
I
that's
do
what we do.
want to minimize it because in a bigger scheme of life and you take perspective, it really is just this versus all of this.
Makes
Right.
sense. Yep. Okay.
So, an attitude of gratitude. Instead of focusing on this, the attitude of gratitude is to be very intentional about reminding yourself of all of this. And so, as I'm being mindful and intentional, I'm just going to highlight my book, Reclaiming Your Best Self, The 4 Disciplines of Mindful Acceptance. I talk about being mindful. I talk about being intentional. So I'm just bringing it up here. When I'm talking about things that are mentioned in my book, to be intentional about those, about having an attitude of gratitude. Notice in absolute statements. People love the word should. And
I love the word should.
most people do. Most people do. I jokingly say, stop shoulding on yourself. I should be married by 30. I should have the perfect marriage. I should have $1 million in the bank. I shouldn't be doing this, that, and the other. The word should seems so absolute and powerful that if we were to just reframe or replace it with, it's long, but it would be nice if. I know that's longer. Should is pithy and it's quick, but should has you on automatic pilot as well. If you are mindful and you take yourself off of automatic pilot and slow down, when you catch yourself saying that you should or someone else should, and you say to yourself, I mean, this is intentional self-talk. Intentionally, you say, it will be nice if. I found myself resetting and centering myself by saying it would be nice if. Because if I feel like someone should have done something, I'm going to be angry because they should have known better.
That's emotion
They
and
should have
all of
known
that
better.
stuff. Right.
All of that is tied into should or should not. But when you change it to it would be nice if, it takes the power away from that word. And it grounds, resets, taps into that sympathetic nervous system. It brings it down.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that, Dr. Adams.
I recommend that. In addition to, there are a few other absolutes. Always, never, in conversation, especially in interpersonal conflicts, don't tell me what I always do, because that's not true. Sometimes, frequently, maybe even more so than not.
Right.
But don't tell me I always do something. That word would put most people on the defensive. Same with
Correct.
should.
Yes.
Because
it does. When you think about it, it's kind of yes,
it is. Those are fighting words. So if you can remember that those are fighting words, you will be mindful of it. So again, instead of always, more so than not, in my mind, I mean always, but I'm very intentional about saying frequently, because I don't want to put the other person on a defensive, because now I'm setting ourselves up to have an unproductive conversation.
So in your workbook, talk us through, so this is where we can be putting down our thoughts. This is where we're reminding ourselves of the gratitude, of the attitude of
Attitude of gratitude.
gratitude. I think also just having in mind those those phrases
Mhm.
that, it's like having note cards
Mhm.
to remind yourself.
Mhm.
That's the great thing about the workbook. You
Mhm.
can go back and look at those phrases. I said this. Well, it would be nice if I said X.
Mhm.
So again, Dr. Adams, it's great having you on the show. Please tell us again where we can find out more information about you, your book, your practice, and your workbook.
Absolutely. My website is www.drchasyadams.com, www.drchasyadams.com. And my social media handles are all at Dr. Chasity Adams. And that's for IG, Facebook, and TikTok.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adams, again for your time today. Thank you so much. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you how your gut's doing, your answer, what would it be? You suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, et cetera, et cetera. Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. And the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of the issues you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each bottle of the supportive supplements that we offer. And very few companies can offer you that. And mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the L Show or WSSC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to this week's segment of the L Show. And a huge thank you to Dr. Chasity Adams. We loved having her on the show. And again, we'll have her again if she agrees to come back on. You will, won't you? You will?
Sure.
You will? Just yes. Uh, um, you know, taking those takeaways that she left us with in this last segment, I think are good. The workbook is great. I know my daughter has the workbook. We both, of course, we all have the book. And I know her, and I don't really practice this, but she requires me to be a little bit more mindful about my talk, the things that I say, and whatnot. And that's the point: being very, very aware of the things that we tell each other, the things that we say, and that is the point. Remember to block off that 3 to 4 p.m. time slot every Friday for the L Show because I do want this to be our happy hour where we are wrapping up a very busy week together on a very uplifting note. Thanks again to all of our listeners and viewers. Can't wait to spend this time with you again next week. Have a fun and safe weekend. Thank you, Dr. Adams.
Thank you for having me.